Hey, it's In EVERDELL. Welcome back to the Meadow. Got a great online game here of EVERDELL. Myself versus 2 humans, 1 AI bot on hard. Let's get into it. First up is wintertime. You can see I drew an innkeeper, husband, crane, palace, and theater. Looking at the meadow, immediately my eye went to the wanderer. Love that card, as well as the farm. During this game, right at the onset, I really liked the forest locations, and so my eye was drawn to that stone and 3 cards forest location. I did take a quick peek at the special events. I saw Shepherd Cemetery, the University Teacher, but of course that EVERDELL Games one, worth 9 points if you can get 2 of each card type. So really, my plan initially, as I was thinking about this, was let's fill up my hand and get a stone to play the crane in order to hopefully delve the deck for that wife so that I could have a duo. Now, I didn't get the wife, as you just see, but I managed to get a farm. And that was good because usually people go for farms in winter. I also loved the idea of playing a crane because, as you see, there's an architect, which I could play for free with the crane in the meadow. Now, I want to note also that I could not play likely both a husband and a wife because of the cost of those, even if I played a berry. So I needed to play the innkeeper as well. I'm going to go ahead and speed up here the turns. They were getting a little bit slow in the beginning. Lots of people making decisions behind the scenes. Alright, so I'm up next. Decide to play the crane. Easy turn. Lots of decisions still. Very early game. You can see the forest locations filling up, especially for that, both stumps on the forest resin berry trifecta, and then also on the card draw plus basic location. I believe a mine got played, but I wasn't too worried at the onset like this. I'm not too worried about what the other team is doing building. I'm really trying to focus on, again, laying out my plan for a good winter. So we're back. I still see the farm is in the meadow, and I'm going to play the one from the meadow rather than my hand with the crane. That'll allow me to hopefully replenish the meadow and get one closer to a wife. Still looking for that pair with the husband in my hand, but you can see the Evertree dropped into the meadow, so my eyes lit up for that. Clearly a card, super high value card that I need to get and be focused on. The Fool in the top left also is interesting. My view on the Fool is it's a terrible card to have dealt to your city, of course, so better to think about playing it sooner than later into an opponent's city. That said, I don't think you need to bend over backwards to go for it super early on because we're all so tightly tied, essentially, between 1 and 3 victory points. I don't think it's clear who's going to be winning. So I wouldn't over-focus on it, but just be aware of it. Back to my turn again. Quick round here. I'm still trying to decide where to play my next meeple, but in the meantime, I'm going to play the innkeeper to hopefully buy some time for, again, a wife to come out or some other juicy card to come out. So doing pretty well here at wintertime. 3 cards played into my city, but actually 4 cards played total when you include the crane. So I'm very happy so far with this long winter. Okay, it's back to me. There was a lot of options here with the innkeeper, so I was also starting to look at, should I play the wanderer, should I play the shepherd, should I play the fool? I actually decided to play the shepherd for free with the innkeeper, so that saved me 3 berries. I had to select Squirrel, who was the AI bot, but it didn't actually give him berries, if you notice. Normally a shepherd costs 3 berries to play, it cost me 0. That's just a little glitch in the game online. But rest assured, I didn't give any berries to opponents. The reason I played the shepherd was I then gained 3 berries, so I saw an opportunity to just free trade for the berries, and also it gets me 1 creature closer to fulfilling one of those special events at the top. Now, I used those 2 berries right off the bat there to play a wanderer. It was risky, but it paid off. As you see, I just drew both a courthouse and a gatherer to top off my hand, limited to 8 cards. So I was super happy. Just luck of the draw. There are a lot of wife and husband duos in the deck, but was really, really fortunate there. So I got exactly what I wanted. I now wanted to shift focus to doing everything I can to get the farm, gatherer, and husband, or harvester. They rebranded it from the wife to a gatherer, the husband to a harvester. My focus was farm, wife, husband, get all 3 of those out if I can before winter now. Still have 1 meeple to place, so interesting long winter. This is really my first look at the other players' cities. Each of them have 2 cards out, some solid starts. I just like to take a look. That University was a little bit scary for me. It's a great card, early play, basically protects you from the Fool and allows you to get creative in the late game. And then that Clock Tower Historian duo for the other opponent. Super impressed by that early. Clock Tower can be good because it gives you an opportunity to cash in on more resources every time you prepare for season. So some strong cities starting to get built from the other team members. Another judge was just played, so that was a bummer to me because I had a courthouse in hand. So just paying attention, I think there's only 1 more judge left in the deck. That kind of makes my courthouse in hand a little bit less valuable. Alright, this was a little bit of a strange play for me, but I actually went to the Haven and discarded 4 cards, 3 of which were production cards that I didn't have interest in. I wanted to get creative here and pick up 1 berry and also 1 stone, because I figured I would always need the stone with some of these constructions in my hand, as well as the Evertree on the meadow. Again, the goal is still go for that gatherer and that harvester, use the 2 berries to pay for the gatherer, and then 3 berries discounted with the farm. Play the wife. Took a peek at the castle. That was an interesting drop. I love the castle because it gives +1 at the end for common constructions. So I wanted to take a look at that, starting to weigh whether I should be even going for the Evertree versus the castle versus the palace in my hand. Which to prioritize, courthouse. My thinking was primarily probably to go for courthouse first because it does generate a wood, a resin, or a stone of your choice whenever you play a construction. So a great value card to get early in a city rather than later to really cash in on that benefit. Also took a look at the special events. There's so many priorities still early in the game. But as you can see, I'm sitting pretty in wintertime still when all my other opponents are actually in spring. And so I've got at least one more play in winter, the husband. So it was a really, really productive early game for me, and I was excited by that. Just want to note one thing about that. I am in the lead very early. It's 5 versus 5 versus 5 versus 8. It puts a target on my back for the Fool, which is out in play in the top left corner of the meadow. And so I don't like that. I don't like to lead early in the game. I think it's better to break late in autumn or maybe even in summer. But I don't really like to lead out in front because it puts a target on your back. So I was starting to get a little bit nervous that I was going to get fooled. I was looking a lot at their resources. The blue and the purple player both had 2 berries, not quite 3. I don't believe we had seen a theater yet, so I still felt pretty safe, but just wanted to note that. Gives a little bit of anxiety to me when I get ahead a little bit in the game, because I think it definitely puts a target on your back. I just want to note, blue player is getting a time warning. There are 3-minute turns online for this kind of game. I love that feature about this game. It keeps things moving. 3 minutes is, I think, plenty of time for you to make a good decision because you're thinking on your opponent's turn as well. But this guy clearly is trying to deliberate between a few things. He's got lots of wood and resin and berries. So he could play quite a few things here, or he could just go to next season. So I found that kind of interesting, but just wanted to note that about the turns here. I've been speeding up the opponent turns, obviously, but the game moves pretty quickly, and I always appreciate someone taking their time because I usually use their time, their turns, to really strategize mine. And there it is. I play the husband and get a free resource with its production firing. I pick up a stone, 2 stone, looking really good, really strong at the end of my winter. So super happy with how it played out. I got the husband-wife duo, the architect through the crane, which is no longer. I got the farm through the crane, and the shepherd and the wanderer. Wanderer is a great value card. 1 point, doesn't take up a spot in your city, and gets you 3 cards, which in this case got me a wife. And then the shepherd is halfway to one of the special events that is on the Evertree. So things are looking good. Squirrel just played a Lookout. That's a great card. I would have loved to have had it myself. I like it because I could have played another Wanderer. But I decided to go to the next season finally in spring and join them. Pick up another stone through my husband. So I've got 3 stone now, which is what I need as a base for the Evertree, the castle, the palace, whichever of those 3 I decide. I was still leaning toward the Evertree, but I was trying to think possibly palace as well, because the palace, I believe, gives 1 point for unique buildings. And so I had a construction as a unique building in my hand. There was also some other unique buildings out in play. But I do remember looking quite a long time at the school. So the school is in the bottom right corner there of the meadow, and it immediately was picked up by the purple player. So that made my decision a little bit easier. The king appeared, which now I completely shifted to focusing on the castle, because with the king and the castle out there, or the king and the Evertree, those are really, really juicy combos. I was already leading, I think, in terms of getting close to playing one of those big buildings. Looking at my opponents, no one had nearly as much stone as I did. And I think I opted here for, yes, the 3 wood and a card. Picked up a peddler, wasn't super excited by that, but excited to get the 3 wood spot. And also block the second stump for that forest location that I just played on. So here I was deliberating a lot, and ultimately I decided to go for the trifecta, get 1 resin and 2 berries. So the king, the Evertree, and the castle were still out here. A bit surprised by that, but eventually Squirrel did actually pick up the Evertree. So that was a bummer. For me, that really kind of broke the momentum that I had, and I just decided, let's pick up the second Wanderer, get some cards since my hand was low, and lo and behold, I top drew an Evertree and a Crane, which is just absolutely incredibly lucky. I already had pretty stacked resources, but this was just a huge catapult moment. To get a second Crane in the game and the Evertree, which would allow me to then go after the Doctor in the middle, that Doctor card, because the king had been plucked from the meadow just previously as well. So I believe what I do here is I play the Crane first, and or maybe perhaps I play the courthouse. I have to remember what happens here, my sequence. I think I ultimately actually decide to go for the courthouse so that I get a free resource when I play the Crane and then the Evertree. Yeah, you can see my hesitation here. I apologize for the long time. I think I decided ultimately not to do the courthouse because I was worried about resin. going back down and losing even more resin at the time. But let me know your thoughts. That could have been a misplay. Looking back here, I probably should have played the courthouse first. The resin 2-spot basic location was open to me, so I think I probably played the wrong sequence there. Lots of options, as you can see here. That was a quick around the horn moment, so we're back in the saddle here, and I do decide to go, I believe, with the Evertree, just to lock that in, using the crane, of course, to pay for it. So I'm back to square one in terms of resources, but really excited by the Evertree, and now I'm looking at pinwheel cards for the rest of the game. Any kind of pinwheel cards, or the prosperity cards, the purple ones, are going to give me a +1 bonus. Now that said, I really like the Doctor because when it fires production, you can trade berries for points, which I think is a really, really valuable card to have going into autumn, just in case I have some extra berries. That was a good one to pick up. It's worth 4. So the other thing I was considering was the basic farm, or I should say the basic production event, which requires 4 green cards in your city. I now had 3, so I was knocking on the door with that. I also had 3 of the traveler cards. I forget the exact term, but the cards with the icon that has a knapsack on it. And so I was thinking, you know, I probably should pick this up. One of my opponents had 2, I believe, and I double-checked that. Yeah, we had the purple player with 2. And I was kind of hesitating here. I was like, do I go for the basic event and just lock that in? Or do I play the one of the forest locations to gather resources? And I decided ultimately there were no production cards, or cards in the meadow, I should say, that I wanted to pick up by going to the next season of summer. So let's just lock in that basic event. So I prepare for season next turn. I'm able to take 2 from the meadow in order to go into summer, and I take the Fool first, and then I pick up another husband. And my thinking there was, let's get the Fool off the meadow. He's been there all game. I am leading substantially still, 28 to the next best, which is 22, and that's a computer. So the 2 human opponents were definitely struggling a little bit, although blue player just picked up a nice combo to close the gap and tie for first. But my thinking here again was, let's play the Fool into someone's city late game and rob them of their 15th or 14th spot and try to throw a wrench in their plan. And then also, let's keep a lookout for another wife, because a 7-point combo of 2 cards in one spot of the city is a great value, especially when I get an additional point with my Evertree for prosperity cards. The wife is a prosperity card, so let's try to get 2 of them, not just 1. I was looking at the inn as well, so there was still in the back of my mind thinking around, should I go for the Everdell Games special event? It's worth 9 points. That would be a 9-point swing against my opponents. However, I felt like that was very risky to do. Likely I was not going to be able to get there. It's probably biting off more than I can chew at this point. I've really invested in playing the cards of the meadow and of my hand rather than optimizing for the events. Now, it was nice to pick up the Knapsack Explorers basic event, but I just thought the Everdell Games was probably out of my reach. The opponents, quite a few of them, had 2 of multiple colors at this point. I didn't have any scrolls, nor did I have any of those types of cards. The ones with the paw prints, whose name I'm forgetting. So here we are back on my turn, first turn of summer. You can see on the left-hand side, we've got 2 opponents already in autumn. So I was feeling very good being so far behind in the sense of timing. And I decided I'm going to pick up 2 resin and a card because I've been pretty, resin has been scarce for me this game. So I wanted to pick that up. So I'm thinking, should I play the post office? I've got a postal pigeon in hand, but card draw has not been an issue for me this game, especially with my 2 wanderers. And also, if you look at the forest locations, card draw was relating to 3 out of 4 of them. So I ultimately decided, yeah, I just don't think the value was there, the utility was there for the post office. And the postal pigeon, although can be valuable, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. It's worth 0 points. You have the chance of playing 1 card up to 3 points, but it really depends on the luck of the draw. You get only 2 options. And so I didn't ultimately decide to play that. I just wanted to pick up some more twigs. So we're back around the horn. I'm kind of debating between quite a few things. My hand is full, but nothing is really standing out to me that I think is super valuable at this point. I'm definitely considering playing a 4th production card to go for that 4th basic event, the final one. But ultimately I decide to actually clear my hand out with 4 cards that I know I likely am not going to play in order to pick up, I believe I go for 2 stone here. Yep, so what I wanted to do was actually get this courthouse in play. And again, looking back at this game, I probably should have played the courthouse much earlier, then played the crane, then played the Evertree. But we'll see how it plays out for me in the long run. Finally, the courthouse. Gonna fast forward through some turns here. I decide, rather than go to next season, let's pick up the clock tower, grab a free resource with my courthouse, and let's keep the season going here. The historian was also in play in the meadow, so I usually like those 2 combos. The historian guarantee is a pretty easy game for card draw. Now, it's a little bit later than I normally like for playing it as a 1-pointer, but I figured because I'm so far ahead in meeples and in turns than my opponents, or I should say far behind, that's going to give me a really good end game position to be drawing a lot of cards and making the best play possible. Kind of debating between should I do a ruins on something, but ultimately decide to do the historian. Just want to note, this is the longest, the furthest behind my opponents I have ever been, I should say. Not in terms of points, which I'm right in the middle, but in terms of turns. They are all deep into autumn, and so that's really interesting for me. The one disadvantage I felt at this moment in the game was they have on lock their meeples for some of these really valuable forest locations. The trifecta resource in the bottom left forest location, and then I was going to get 2 of my meeples back on the right hand side and free them up, but that's one thing to just keep in mind, is the order in which your meeples are able to be placed in the late game, because autumn time they don't get picked up again, so those spots get taken, of course, forever. Squirrel plays an innkeeper. Squirrel is a AI bot and clearly winning against all 3 of us, which is really interesting. I actually ruin a farm which had already... I decided I wasn't going to save until autumn, in order to extend summer here, and I actually draw a judge, which is really great, and then also 2 wives. So this was really exciting to me because the harvester, or the husband, in the bottom right-hand corner of that meadow is now looking really attractive to me for another 7 points combo if I'm able to play it. Now, berries were tough for me. There were not a lot of berries that were in the forest locations, and so I believe what I'm going to have to do is decide which cards to get rid of via the Haven if and when I really want to go for the husband-wife. Going with the judge. Cashed in for free on the courthouse. Gonna help me get a little more flexible with my resources since berries are in short demand this game. Draw a historian, thanks to my other historian in play. So that's one other card I can discard for points or for resources at the Haven later on. And look at that, the Everdell games, the best special event in the game, just gets claimed by purple player. They're going to hop up to 44 points just behind Squirrel. I'm now in officially last place as of now. Not worried, but wasn't surprised the Everdell games eventually got claimed here. I actually skipped this, I believe. I just want to play the fairgrounds for my the resources it requires. I pick up a resin because... Oh no, I pick up a stone. Okay, interesting. I think at this point I was leaning towards maybe playing the dungeon. And so I decided to pick up another stone there. So I've got a full hand here. Still the Fool from early on in the game. And the dungeon. I'm figuring, I was actually looking at targeting someone with the Fool. However, I believe the purple player is actually out of city spots. I believe they hit 15 city spots quite early compared to me because obviously they're already deep into autumn. I'm in end of summer. But I was hesitating a lot on this turn of what should I do? Should I be refocusing on going for the king and trying to pick up a special event or two to give me some bonus, and also the prosperity bonus point through the king? But I decided to actually just go for the next season. I do believe I cash in the clock tower just once and pick up some resources heading into autumn because I was pretty low on everything except stone. So I opt for lumber there. I believe at the time I was thinking of playing the palace. I don't have any berries, so I couldn't cash in points on with the doctor's production firing. So we're back around the horn again. It's decisions. Red player is out. They have locked in at 48 points. If the game were to end now, they would win. So I've got at least 9 points to make up. Actually, excuse me, my math is wrong. I've got 10 points to make up in order to beat red. Feeling pretty confident about that. I've got all 6 meeples still for autumn. Kind of surveying around. There was quite a few cards in my hand I was really trying to think through. I actually decided to go for 2 resin and a card. I couldn't pick up a card, but I wanted to block the space from others. Purple player goes with castle. The king is on the board. I figure at this point there's no way I'm going to get that king, so I should shift strategies. I only have 8 cards in my city so far. And I hesitate there because I don't love taking up the spot of the stone and 3 cards if I can't get the 3 cards. At this point, a dungeon feels to me wrong because I was never fooled, and I wanted to make sure that I had lots and lots of cards with high value that I could play into the city. It felt wrong to do that, so you can see me hesitating here. I ultimately opt for just stacking those resin up, which was definitely the toughest resource I think for me to get in the game. Purple player has just 1 more meeple to place. I can see they've got 3 berries. I can see, though, that they are tapped out. They have no more city spots, I believe. Check that. After the king, they don't. So he's in the clear lead at 56. I go for the palace. Ultimately, it's a prosperity card, and I can use the judge to pay it down with wood instead of stone, so it's a little cheaper, and then pick up a free resource, which I believe I opt for stone here. I'm looking and trying to figure out which card I want to play next. The post office has been out there a while and I don't like it, but the mine might be interesting, and there's a miner mole that I could use to delve into another opponent's production in their city and get some extra points that way, or at least extra resources. Now, purple has still not played their meeple, so they might actually get more points here. I'm definitely nervous at this point because although I have 4 meeples, they have really pulled ahead, and they ultimately did the Brilliant Marketing Plan special event, and so they are at 62 points with 2 events, and so in the case of a tiebreaker, 2 events beats my 1 event, and so I figured I have to get 63 or more points. So how do I engineer that? I ultimately use the judge here and opt for playing a wife into a space so that I can figure out how to get 3 berries in order to play from the meadow the husband. Quick note, I do have a cemetery in hand. I'm looking at that Remember the Fallen. However, it's only 3 points per buried worker in the cemetery, and that means it would only be worth 1 unless I get the Undertaker, which unlocks the second. And that to me felt very unlikely to happen. I was full-handed, and I hadn't seen a single Undertaker yet, so they were probably both still in the deck or they had been discarded at this point. I ultimately decide to play the Fool just for free into the red player's city, and I do that because I want to make room in my hand for another card. With my Historian, I drew a clock tower, so no help there, but that's okay, it was worth a shot. Autumn time is always the time with Everdell. Games are always decided in autumn. It's the longest season and it's the most important. 6 meeples each, tons of cards on the play, tons of resources, and it's make or break. You can see all 3 players have finished their game. Not a super strong turnout this game, honestly. 62 points is definitely beatable. The 40s is usually last. It depends, of course, on every game, but I was feeling pretty confident. I just wanted to make sure that I got this right, so I ultimately decided Instead of discarding in the Haven, let's just lock in 3 victory points by getting rid of some cards that I know I can't play. And I opted for a Clock Tower because I already had one, a Chip Sweep, which I didn't plan on using, and then a Historian, which I couldn't use because I already had one. So that thins out my hand a little bit and kind of gives me a few more options to think about. How do I close that gap? I've got to get to 63 points. I've got 3 meeples and 2 spaces in my city left. So it's going to be tight. So really taking my time here, trying to do some calculations. Basically what I was thinking about was, how do I actually get that harvester? So I go to the Haven, discard 4 cards I really don't think I was going to use at this point. I actually get time checked for the first time. That's how long I was deliberating here. And I discard for 2 berries so that I can play the Harvester and get creative with the payment with my Judge. That's my second pairing. I'm now at 60 points, just 3 away. I draw a Teacher, which is a great 2-card value card that also would allow me to draw. I'm really leaning away at this point from playing the Cemetery, even though I could gather an event for 3 points. I think it's just probably not the optimal play. So I decided to spend one of my meeples on that stone 3-card spot, trying to draw anything that might be more interesting to me. Nothing comes of it though. And I'm gonna play the Mine from the Meadow, and I'm gonna replace some resources to get it. I don't think it matters at this point. I think I've got it. I think I've got it in the bag, considering I have 1 spot left in the city and 1 meeple. But I'm at 62 points, so I'm tied for first. I play the Minor Mole for free for 1 point. And then I choose to copy a production. I realize I didn't have any berries, or else I would have copied the Monk and given berries 4 points. So I'm kind of looking around, deciding. There's a lot to play, obviously, at the end game like this. Opt for card draw. And I realize I've gotten it. 66 points. Full city. And that's game. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hit the like and subscribe button if you'd like to see more Everdell games. I absolutely love this game. It's my favorite. I've been playing board games for almost 3 decades. This is absolutely my favorite. So much great strategy to come. I'll see you next time.